Kimberly Crail is a wise woman, herbalist, and educator who came from Wall Street to the weeds. Casey's mission is to teach folks how to heal themselves using whole plants and foods as medicine. You can heal yourself with simple and inexpensive methods, foods, and herbs. And now, here's the host of Weeds of Wisdom, Kimberly Crail.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Weeds of Wisdom. It's Tuesday, August 12th, and I'm very excited. My guest tonight is an amazing woman. She is not only a tarot reader, but she's also been a rock and roll promoter and music aficionado for years and years. And so I'm very excited. We're going to talk with her about Rockin the Tarot. So she's going to explain a little bit about how the tarot works. It's a tool for divination, and I was blessed to actually meet her. She's actually close to where I live here in Florida. So I'm very excited. We're going to have a great conversation with Anita Stewart tonight. So let me tell you a little bit about Anita's background. She has an amazing background. But first, I have to remind you that a patient cured is a customer lost. So when it comes to your medical system, just understand that generally speaking, the doctors may not have your best interest, they may not be incentivized to work for your best interest. So Anita Stewart, she's got such a diverse background. She's been a social media director, virtual outreach coordinator for startups and environmental and political campaigns. She's an artist, a crafter, writer, blogger, photographer, and musician. Anita grew up in her father's radio station. She's a United States Air Force veteran and worked as an intelligence operations specialist in the U.S. and Europe. She studied English, film, media, political science, and journalism. From 2006 till 2023, Anita was on staff for various local, state, and federal political campaigns, including Kucinich for President 2008 and Kennedy for President 2024. From 2010 to 2014, Anita was elected and served on the Hillsborough County Tampa Metro Soil and Water Conservation Board. She won the seat with over 82,000 votes and spent less than $300 for her campaign. Anita broadcasted and produced several radio shows. She's currently a retired contributor, photographer, interviewer, and reporter for the online and print magazine Rockin and serves as the managing editor. I don't know why my PowerPoints get cut off when I bring them here. Anita writes the occasional feature and conducts interviews with notable musicians. She also promotes musicians through Anita Stewart Promotions. In 2017, she brought So Far Sounds to Tampa. She works on photography and art projects under the name Nature Fantasies. She paints and crafts using a variety of mediums, and when she can, upcycled, recycled supplies and items are included in her work. Her works reflect the patterns normally found in nature. She often explores wild nature and green spaces with her camera. The rocking chair is not for her. She tends to think of retirement as refocusing her energies. For over 50 years, she has read the tarot and done astrology in the Tampa Bay area. You can find her at tarotandstars.com, and she's just recently started offering astrology for business with Stargazing Astrology on Facebook. She's also available for parties in the Tampa Bay area. You can contact Anita at tarotandstars@gmail.com. And so without further ado, let me bring Anita on. Hello, Anita. How are you?
Hello. Just fine. And how are you?
I'm great. It's so good to see you.
And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I always appreciate people who have skills and gifts in terms of divination. And I think, at least it seems to me that tarot is one of those tools. And certain people can use them really, really well in terms of figuring out what's going on, what the energy is, and sort of, what might be going on in life in general. How did you get started, actually? How did you get started with the tarot?
It's very interesting because over the years, um, I think it had a lot to do with bloodline. Most of these divination gifts are passed on matrilineally through our mothers. And as time went on, we did my family did some DNA testing and we found out what our bloodline was. And I realized that the shaman bloodline came through my father. And we have Sami blood, which is, the reindeer people, the Lapland people in northern Scandinavia. After all these years of thinking that I was Irish Scottish on my father's side, and no doubt that bloodline is there too. But he was an Aquarius. I'm an Aries. He has an Aries. He had an Aries moon. I have an Aquarius moon. It was really bizarre, but we had a connection that was more like brother and sister, twins, or something. There was some kind of close connection where we finished each other's sentences. And he bought me a deck when I turned 15. It was the Aquarian deck, which was very popular back then. The one with the kind of psychedelic blue background and the
Right.
Art Deco images. Um, I had never used the Rider Waite. I wasn't sure. There wasn't that many decks published back then either, but the
Right.
Aquarian was one of the first. Um, so I started to use that, and I started to read for everybody. I read for my cat. I read for my mother. I read for all my friends. And I never really stopped doing that. And even as years went by and I put the tarot down for a while, like when I was in the military, for example, a deck would always follow me. So I'd open a box and there would be a deck laying in it. And I would go, oh, I think I'm supposed to pick this up. But, it was just all these subtle hints. They really weren't like hints. They were more like, I call them clue by fours.
Clue by
Clue-
fours. That's an excellent
Yeah,
one.
clue by fours. Like, hey, you're supposed to pick this deck up and use it. So I started to read. Even when I was in the service, I was reading for people in my small apartment. Um, and I worked in Intel, which I believe when you have that kind of job, that there's a reason why you're there because so much of it is based on what they would call in the past the sixth the sixth sense
Right.
and a lot of intuitive ability. Um, in fact, I just watched one of those crazy movies last night, The Raid on Entebbe by it was about Idi Amin and the raid from the hijacks and all of that stuff, 1976 or whatever. And I'm watching them in this movie plan this whole raid and do all these things like these operations. It was Operation Thunderbolt. And I thought, how much of that, I'm thinking in my mind, how much of that was based on intuition? How much of those facts about that airport and what they had to do was by knowledge or by intuition? And
Right.
that was an interesting question to ponder over. So,
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's always intuition, but
yeah,
I don't know that I don't know that we, really acknowledge it as that, you know. Um, yeah, and we have this, natural ability. It's kind of
mhm,
our birthright, but it's really been kind of how should we say discouraged. Uh,
right.
very very strongly discouraged in terms of development and in terms of skill. Um, and okay, so he gave you the deck. So then, so how do you actually really approach the tarot? I mean, what do you typically look to the tarot to provide for
I'll
folks?
I'll ask questions if I'm doing just a poll for the day. if I don't have any appointments, I don't have any clients, I'll pull in the morning when I wake up, and I'll just pull 3 cards for the general energy of the day. And sometimes other questions will come. So I'll
Hmm.
continue to pull cards, or I'll just pull more and add to the energy.
Right.
And when I'm checking that, at the same time, I'm also checking what sign the moon is in, you know, what is the makeup of like the orrery chart, which would
Right.
be where the planets are now and what they're how they're interacting with each other. Usually it's a total blend between the two platforms, astrology and
Hmm.
tarot. It just
Right.
blends together and confirms confirms the energy that's going on as well. So that's interesting.
Right. Now you've had some experience with sort of an overlap in terms of your music with the astrology and the tarot. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I've found that what's always fascinated me, and I don't know if it has to do with those books that hit the bestseller lists back in the 1970s, the Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, and then Linda Goodman's Love Signs. Those were like very, very popular best-selling books on
I remember.
yeah, and Linda Goodman, she really introduced a lot of us to astrology, especially with the love signs too, but with personalities. With the first book that she did, she compared each person with like a notable character, and that put it together for me. So even to this day, um, I'll look up like actors, actresses, rock stars, couples, famous couples. Of course, I looked up Pamela Sue Anderson and Liam Neeson, who are the stars of the movie that's out now, The Naked Gun. And anybody that's followed Hollywood has known about these two for a really long time separately. But to bring them together, okay, how did that happen? Or what about their astrology signs brought them together? And I thought, okay, I already knew Liam Neeson was a Gemini, but I also knew that Pamela Sue Anderson was a Cancer. And I thought, that's not very harmonious. I'm thinking, okay, something brings them together. So I went online, I pulled their charts, I put their charts side by side. And it's crazy, but Liam Neeson is this Gemini. She's the Cancer, but her rising is Gemini. So she's drawn right to him. I call it the big three: your sun, your rising, and your moon. Something about those three will also pull somebody else in. You're not just your sun sign. That's the title of a class I teach. You're not just your sun sign. You're made up of all these planets in this pie chart. Um, they're all in different signs, they're all in different houses. So everything is like a snowflake. It's completely unique to you. But yet, those big three will usually be what draws two people together. Or it can repel
Interesting.
people too,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And
That's really interesting.
I have a good idea of personalities if I know somebody's sun, rising, and moon, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
No. Totally.
the sun is going to be your preconceived notions about that person, how they identify, how they are publicly, right? Your moon is how you feel, your emotions, and how those manifest for you. And it can be very personal, deep stuff too that you don't communicate with anyone. So that would be your moon. Your rising is what other people see when they see you. They see like Capricorn rising. Okay, if they knew that about me, they would say, "Oh, Anita, she likes to work. She's very tenacious." That Capricorn rising is going
Right.
to make that statement about me. So,
Got it.
that's an
Interesting.
example. So it's putting it all together is basically how you do an astrology chart. It's putting all those things
Interesting.
together. So,
Okay. Now the tarot is a little different from astrology, though. Can you tell us a little bit about the tarot deck itself and kind of? I think there are 22 major arcana,
right.
and I don't remember how many minors, but can you talk about that and how it's laid out and because I think it's important that people understand that all of these images are really archetypes and um, not something literal, right? So if you see, somebody stabbed with a sword, it's not advocating stabbing with a sword. So just to be
Right.
clear.
Like for instance, I'll just show you one I've got because it's right here. The death card. People are petrified about this card. And yeah, it could mean death. But as tarot readers, ethically, we don't talk about that to people. We don't scare the crap out of people, you know? So we want to tell them that this card is about transformation, things going through a rapid change, phoenix like energy, some type of destruction, but it rebuilds and creates something new, something like
Mm,
that.
right.
And while I would say this is more of a gentle energy. The Tower is another card that's chaos. It's almost the same energy, but it's chaotic when it's happening. So
I was
that's how
just
it'd be
thinking of that
different.
card.
Yeah. So that's how it would be different. So the tarot is made up with the 22 arcana, and then it has 16 court cards, and then it has 10 cards for each suit, the minor arcana, which would be 40 cards.
Got it.
And if the tarot deck doesn't have that, or if the deck you're looking at doesn't have that structure, it's not a tarot deck. It's an
Right, because there are a
oracle
lot of
deck.
different kind of oracle decks nowadays
Right,
and other kind of decks, right?
right. So you have to be really careful of something that says tarot, but um, it doesn't have that structure. So,
Hmm.
and then there's things like the Lenormand deck. The Lenormand deck is just a simple little oracle deck that's become quite popular. And this doesn't really have any structure. This is just like little little pieces of familiar objects like park,
Hmm.
fox,
Hmm. With numbers.
house, house, with numbers. And the things you might see in a movie, they call it the grand tableau, where they use all 36 of these cards spread out on a table. Then that's Lenormand. But that's where you get that thing in the movies where they talk about, where's the lady, you know où est la cherche la femme, or we're looking for the woman. You see where the woman is in the spread, and you see where the man is in the spread, and you
Ah.
can tell whether they're coming together or they're going apart. So this
Oh,
is a
interesting.
perfect little oracle if you're doing a lot of love readings.
Lenormand, he said.
Yeah. And
Lenormand.
this was invented later than the tarot. The tarot started out as a game, probably in Italy, and they had to keep it as a game because if they used it as divination publicly, the Knights Templar would have started killing people.
Yeah.
So they masqueraded it as a game in these very shishi households or royal households. Um, so they have bits of the original tarot, or they call it the original, but it's probably not, the Visconti Sforza deck, which you can find in some museums in Italy. The
Interesting.
Lenormand was discovered by Marie Lenormand in France, and she was the reader for Napoleon, Josephine. She read for famous people during the French Revolution. And a couple times she ended up in jail because um, some of these military people would say she was a spy. She knew too much.
Wow.
So, so she would
Wow.
end up, yeah, she would end up getting busted. And then eventually Josephine or somebody else would get her out and she would continue to read. When she died in France in 1843, I think it was, she died like a pop star. It was like flowers in the streets and horse-drawn
Wow.
carriages, and she's buried the same place where Jim Morrison is buried, Père Lachaise in
Oh, no kidding.
Paris. Victor Hugo, yeah, Victor Hugo is buried there. You know, I think Chopin is buried there.
Huh,
All these, and she's buried there too. So very interesting.
that
So
is interesting.
this deck has really become popular because it's a lot easier to learn. It's only 36 cards, and I use it because I blend it with the tarot. So I use
Oh.
both of them together, actually.
Ooh, neat. Cool. Well,
So
that's very informative. I did not know that about Lenormand, and yeah, I knew about the Italian roots of the tarot, and I knew that they had to make it into a game, otherwise they would be like burned at the stake or put on the
yeah,
rack or one of those things. I find it fascinating that we still have so much remnant of that point of view today. I mean, there are a lot of people that really still view tarot and any kind of divination as witchcraft and therefore evil. And I think it's a bit of a shame. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's just a holdover from prior generations, or is that an active campaign to make sure we don't connect with our divine?
I tend to believe that there's a lot of forces out there that don't want us connecting with consciousness and those things that will benefit us. They want to keep us poor, they want to keep us in fear, and all of that. I think when you can expand your consciousness and live on a different level and be able to take the wisdom that comes from within, even, I mean, even the story of Christ, Yeshua, and Mary Magdalene, and all of that has been
Hmm.
completely distorted over the
Yep.
years.
Yep.
And what Yeshua was trying to tell us, which Mary Magdalene continued to talk about, was that the divine is within. So,
Right.
whatever way you get there isn't wrong.
Right.
It's as long as you're not harming anyone else.
Right.
I mean, her discussions or her talks on sin are not even what we think about or what we learned in the
Right.
church. It's
Right.
totally different. So,
Oh, completely. And I think that um, based on, and I have been looking at the Gospel of Mary Magdalene and some of the teachings, and I think that it's very similar to what I think Abraham Hicks would say. Sin means without, actually, I think in Latin. So
right.
it's like you're pinched off from source. You're separated from source. And that is the what generates the what we call evil, if you will. It is
Yeah.
that being without that connection to source. So it's quite interesting that they think it's the that you're right, they turn it around.
I think the
Um,
church did women a great disservice.
yeah.
They did us a great disservice over these hundreds and hundreds of years where we could have been treated as equals and
They don't like that intuition being used unless it's in
Nope.
their service. But listen, we're coming up on a break here. When we come back, I'm looking forward to maybe having you pull some cards. If the audience has a question, please type in. So we'll be right back. Thank you.
The Onyx Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the Onyx Network website at onyxnetwork.com. That's onyxnetwork.com.
Unlock the mysteries of the spirit realm with the new book, Meeting Wallace. In this channeled work by renowned psychic medium Larry Costa, the reader will delve into the profound wisdom of his spirit guide, Wallace. Together, they share the transformative journey of harnessing psychic powers from the celestial plane. Discover the extraordinary psychic gifts that have empowered Larry on his path, and immerse yourself in a thought-provoking and awe-inspiring read. Meeting Wallace is a groundbreaking endeavor, and it is a perspective seen through the eyes of a spirit guide. Discover the wisdom of the spirit realm alongside actual photographs of ghosts and spirit guides. Get the book Meeting Wallace by Larry Costa at Amazon.com.
Hi, welcome back to Weeds of Wisdom on this Tuesday, August 12th. And before we get back to Anita, I wanted to just remind you that this massive Introduction to Herbal Medicine and Your Wise Healer Within class is now available, and the link is down below. Thanks to Margie K for putting that up. But we're going to cover so much information. It's 3 sessions. It's 5.5 hours of pure gold. So I encourage you to go to the links, and hang on a second, I just got to find the correct slide here where I have the link for you. There it is. There you go. So there's a QR code. I know some people don't like those, but it's a 3-part series, and if you want to book a private consult with me, please feel free to do so. It's about the cost of a copay if you were going to go to the doctor. Also, I am now currently halfway through my second 120-day study using Masterpiece, and my mercury levels were cut in half. My aluminum got cut in half. Seems to be working well. So if you have any interest in learning more, you can please go here, scan that, and you can get a 10% discount. So, and let's get back to Anita. So let's does anybody in the audience have a question that they would like to be answered with the tarot, either the Lenormand or the Rider-Waite deck, or both? Let's see if anybody out there has a question. What instrument do you play? I don't think we need the cards for that one. Do you play an instrument?
I play a little bit of guitar. I started out on the flute, but I wasn't good at it. And everybody studied the guitar back in my hippie days, like when I was 13, 14, 15. Everybody wanted to be a guitarist. And everybody wanted to be Joni Mitchell. Are you kidding me?
Sorry.
And then I play the ukulele now, and I have really enjoyed that. And I really enjoy hand drumming. I really like drumming at festivals. The ukulele is so much easier for people like me with super small hands. I can't really navigate the neck of a guitar very well, or bend my fingers so I can actually go into some of the chords. They just require big hands, big fingers. Ukulele is like perfect. So
just unlike Tiny Tim, who played the ukulele, he had ginormous fingers.
Isn't that wild? Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
But anything that you play on guitar, you can play on ukulele now. I mean, you know.
Yeah. That's fun. So was your father psychic?
I wonder about that sometimes. That's a good question, because he was such a good salesperson. You know, when I grew up, he owned the radio station. He worked in radio in Detroit. He bought a radio station in Western Pennsylvania. It was the first rock and roll radio station in that area. He started announcing for stock car races. He knew everybody. He sold advertising. When we came down here, he started working for the local to you and me, Channel 10 affiliate. And he said, well, why should I go into owning anything? Because I can make more money selling advertising. So that became his niche. And he was announcing at all the stock car tracks in the area too. And I remember growing up, and we never had to buy a meal in a restaurant, because everywhere we went was his account. And they would just comp our dinner, and, you know. But I think to be a salesperson, you got to have something to make you close that deal. And whatever that was, he had it. He could close a deal like that. So he could sell you beachfront property in Arizona very easily. So
that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. So here's a question. Have you looked at the strange interstellar craft that's headed our way with your tarot cards? That's a great question. Maybe
wow. And we were just talking about it before we went on the air too. So that's really interesting.
That's the 3-eye atlas, I believe they're calling it. Is that right?
And I watched another tarot reader that just does predictions. She doesn't handle personal clients anymore. Tarot by Janine. And she did a poll on this on her broadcast yesterday. So, okay, I'm shuffling, and let's see what they say. This is so interesting. Oh.
Ooh, you got to show us.
We already talked about how this is probably not harmful to any of us, that they're coming in peace, that it's a gentle energy that surrounds them, that they're there to help us. But I don't think they come from just one place. I think it's a collaborative effort. They consider this a mission because it's work for them. They're doing something to protect us, as we discussed before we went on the air. And then we have the 7 of Cups, which is amazing, because this is talking about how many things this could be is probably what's running through most people's minds. They're thinking, what
It's
is
always been
this?
a tough card for me to figure out that one. It's
But
like, what is it?
I think
Maybe
with
that's
this,
what the message is. What is it?
what is it? And I think it's not anything that at this time that you can put your finger on or that you can describe until it makes its presence known. But I don't see anything here about fear. I just see
Right.
indecision.
Cups are usually pretty soft.
Mm-hmm. It's indecision. It's indecision about what to think about it, how this energy is gonna be used, and none of this is fearful.
No.
So I'm not
And
afraid.
they're all minor arcana. They're all
Minor arcana.
too.
Minor
So nothing
arcana.
is set in stone.
No, anything could change at any time, but to me, it just looks like it's a wait and see, and we don't need to fear porn. We don't need to
Right.
be afraid of it. So
Nice. All right. That was excellent. So when you do like you pull like 3 cards, right? Now,
right.
would you use the Lenormand at all in this for this kind of a question, or you just go with the 3-card pull that you were looking for? I mean, I'm just looking to understand how you would, when that would work its way into the equation.
Because I'll pull 3 from the Lenormand too. But one thing I did want to say is the
Lenormand.
tarot is subjective, and the Lenormand is more exact. And it's almost like forming a sentence when you're using the Lenormand. And I was playing around with the deck the first time I had it, and I had a little notebook, and I was with Leon, and we went out to the park and we were fishing, and it was a Sunday. And I shuffled the Lenormand deck and I said, tell me what I'm doing now. Bring me into some presence of mind. So what came out was the park, the fish, and the cross. This was a Sunday at the park,
Right.
and he was fishing.
Fishing.
And I thought, oh my God, that's like literal as hell. That is just like literal.
Couldn't miss that one.
No. So I'm going to pull 3 now, and I'm going to say, okay, give some insight. Give some insight about this 3-eye atlas, or whatever they want to call it.
I'm sure that's not its name for itself.
Right. Yeah, right. So I got this. The tree. This is based on energy. This is usually healing energy. If you're doing a big spread with the Lenormand and something is down here below the card, you could say, okay, the roots are redirecting energy. But when I'm pulling like a 3-card spread, I would say this is a healing energy. That's what these branches and leaves are giving off. Look at the stork. The stork is about new life and movement.
Right.
And movement.
And it's 17.
Yeah. And
Sorry.
look at what's next. The heart.
Oh, the heart.
They come in love.
Right.
So it's basically confirming what everybody else is saying,
Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, it's nothing to worry about. It's fear porn if they tell you that we're going to be under attack or whatever. And there's no telling what the news is going to say, the corporate media.
Right. So what does 17 mean? Well, 17 is the 17th letter in the alphabet is Q.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole Q, everybody in Q, all the Anons, always look for 17s in their comms. So for those who are unaware, that's what 17, the significance of 17 is.
That's
So,
wild.
and right. And then, of course, you have the 33, which is the deep state uses that a lot because the 33rd degree Masons, and they have their own symbols and numerology, and most of which was stolen from the from the Wiccans and the pagans, and inverted and subverted, and
Right.
made into something that it really wasn't. But yeah,
And the
so that's my understanding of 17. Although 17 also in numerology goes to 8,
mhm.
which is the infinity. So anyway, there's also that.
Yeah, the lemniscate, the 8 on its side. And then
Right.
in the Lenormand, the 33 is the key.
That's interesting.
So gaining access to those things that you don't have access to,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And then you can also use some of these really cool astrology oracles, which I do use quite often. This one is this one here from published by Hay House. So this
Okay.
is Star Codes
Astro
Astro.
Oracle. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to say, okay, where do they come from?
Ooh,
Let's
I love
see
it.
what we get.
Let's be specific. Let's see
Yeah,
what
where
what
are they
star
coming?
system they're from.
Yeah, where are they coming from? So,
Hi, fairy dust covered in magic. Welcome. We see you.
wow.
Ooh, another
So
tree.
this is the Imam Coeli. So when you're looking at a chart, it's the very bottom of the chart where the house, the fourth house starts, but that in traditional astrology would be Cancer, home. So
Interesting.
I'm wondering if where they're coming from used to be the human's home. That's making me
Could be.
wonder about that.
Very interesting.
So, Imam Coeli, when you're looking at the chart, you're looking basically from the high point down on a circle. So the Imam Coeli would be at the bottom. So
Got it.
it
Right.
could be inner Earth. Could be.
Fascinating. But it's got this giant disc in the top of it too.
Yeah.
There is that. So
Yeah. I just think it's interesting that there's two cards with trees and roots.
right.
That's really crazy. So
Or maybe they're coming from where we have our roots, perhaps.
yeah,
Was the theory.
yeah, that's why I think it would have something to do with where humans originally came from, and that would confirm that we're here as an experiment. We were just kind of like left here, abandoned
Right.
here. And
Well, we won't get into it tonight because we'll run out of time. But I did I read a book many years ago. It was one of those what did you call it before, the Cluniverse things where they club you with something. It was this book that fell off the shelf twice at Borders called The Gaia
clue
Project.
by four, clue by four.
Clue by four, yeah, thank you. It was a clue by four, and it happened twice. And I was on my way in looking for a completely different book, and those shelves, and it fell off, and I stuck it back. I went back. On the way back, it did the same thing. I was like, okay, I guess I have to buy you. And I've only met one other person in my life who's ever read it. So it's called the Gaia Project. But anyway, it's channeled by a Korean man. And the whole idea is that, the Gaia Project, Gaia, Earth, is a project where, unlike every place else in the solar system, where each frequency being is located at, like if you're a 7th density, you're on Sirius, or I'm just making this up for illustration purposes. You're a 5th density, you're on, Pleiades or something, right? So you have a particular star system based on where your vibrational density is. But Earth was an experiment which would allow all of the different densities and frequencies to interact with each other in physical bodies, in physical form, and thereby create a new, unique kind of energy. that would then, be, provided back to the universe to, continue the expansion. So, anyway, if anybody in the audience has ever read the Gaia Project, please contact me. But yeah, it's a fascinating theory. So I think that there's could be some truth to that. That we're kind of an experiment, and I don't know that it's a prison though. I mean, I hear a lot of people
Mm-mm.
talking about is we're on a prison planet and we're in a matrix and a simulation and all that other business. I just don't feel that. But hey, I don't know. I really don't know.
David Icke talks about that, and I'm reading The
Yeah,
Trap now. But
yeah.
there's The Trap is in the other room, but it's a trilogy. So there's two other books that go along with that. And I kind of want to see how those other books pan out. So I'm going to read the whole trilogy. But that Gaia project sounds very compelling. It's something
It
I'll
was
have to check
really, I
into.
mean, the first time I read it, honestly, I think it was must have been, I don't know, the 90s, maybe. I don't
Mm,
know, 2000. No, it was 2000s because it was the Gaia Project 2012. They stuck that on the cover. I'm sure that was the publisher's decision, right?
right.
He also did another book that I cannot find in English called There's More Than What We See or something like that. And I can't find that anywhere in print. But that was before the Gaia Project. But, the first time I read it, I was like, yeah, that's really out there. Like the first
Mhm.
time I read the Urantia Project, back in the 80s, actually, a friend gave it to me. I was like, yeah, right. You know, but I think, just planting those seeds, right? And then you go, oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh, yeah. Um, and I think that's really what it's all about for us anyway, isn't it? Remembering. We're not
Yeah.
really, there's nothing new in the universe. It's just we're remembering it. And all of that remembering is part of what divination really is, right? So
Right.
really when you're using these divination tools, you're really connecting with your source within, which is giving you a line into what some people have described as the Akashic records or, divine intelligence or source or whatever like that. So I just think it's really amazing that we have these simple tools that can help us connect in such a powerful way. So
I remember reading um, Lobsang Rampa about the third eye. That was probably one of the first metaphysical books that I read.
mhm.
And it was Lobsang Rampa, the third eye. He was teaching people basically how to meditate, and he was a um, Tibetan priest. I don't know what they call him. I,
Mhm.
I don't know, but
Llama or something.
Lama, yeah. But I read through the whole series of books eventually, and that was kind of like my first exposure. And then I was reading books like Be Here Now, the Upanishads,
Right.
and I think that all of that Eastern stuff woke something up in me, you know.
Yeah.
Raised Catholic, this was totally something I was not familiar with. And to me, it made more sense than the Catholic religion, for me anyway.
Mm.
And it's funny, my mother was going to become a nun, but at the end of her life, she was very accepting of me reading the tarot. So I thought that was interesting that she didn't seem to think there was anything wrong with that. And she was
There's a
born in.
book I saw years ago called Confessions of a Pagan Nun.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah, I don't
interesting.
recall who the author was, but essentially, yeah, very interesting. Well, people say that the reason the Catholic Church even has the Mother Mary is because they just would not give up the Great Mother, and they had to find a role for her in the church.
Right.
So, you don't find that in Protestant religions, right? But you do find it in Catholicism.
Yeah. And
It's a bit older.
we talked a little bit about Mary Magdalene before we went on the air, and there seems to be a huge resurgence in Mary Magdalene and the energies of Mary Magdalene. And lots of witches and pagans and female spiritual people are, as you said, remembering what Christ consciousness was all about, and remembering that women had a specific place in the church and they were not below the men. They were equal
Right.
to.
Correct.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the Hopi say, when the wisdom of the grandmothers is heard, the world will heal. And, I firmly believe that. And, um, part of what I think, we've been 3 or 4 generations in particular where the mind control has been very intense. And so it's hard to people just think, oh, well, of course, that's silly. We've already, that couldn't possibly be true, because after 3 generations, any behavior or attitude that you have will become what's called autogenic. In other words, it's just encoded in your DNA. So you will not question or any of that. That's why people are very tribal, right? They have their family traditions, right? And those traditions are going to be the most powerful guides for people's lives. So
I look at the astrology makeup of people, and people that tend to be the fixed, they have modalities. They have the cardinal signs, the fixed, and then the mutable. And the fixed signs are the ones that have hard times changing or adjusting what they believe in.
Right. No, that is true.
So,
So okay, so we have about 4 minutes left. So let's think about one more question. Let's pick a question here. Let's see. What do we want to know, audience? Any burning questions in your mind here? Yes, this is live. Funny, Europe with fruit. What are the fit signs? Yes, you're allowed to ask a question. Please ask a question.
the fixed signs are Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo. So notice they're 2 opposites. The mutable are Virgo, Pisces, and Gemini, Sag. The cardinal signs are Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer.
Gotcha.
And the cardinal signs are the signs that are going to be the first ones to take action about anything. So,
those typically the fire signs?
No, there's one from each element.
Oh, interesting.
So there's Aries, fire, for example, Libra, air. There's Cancer, water, and Capricorn, which is earth. And the same thing with the other 2 sets of 4. There's one from each element.
Right. Okay, cool. So now, I know you do tarot readings there in Tampa. I don't think we have any more questions coming. So, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they wanted to book a reading?
Tarotandstars.com. My website is probably the best way. I've got a phone number on there, which is easy to find. And texting me, if you text me or call me, I respond right away. So texting would be probably the best.
Gotcha.
I'm on all the socials, TikTok, Twitter, which is now X, Facebook, all of those.
Cool. All right. Well, definitely we'll have to get together. So, all right. I have a quick question. Hang on. We got a couple more comments coming in. Oh, we do have a question. Joe Firmino says, "What's next for me professionally?"
Oh, okay. I'm just going to pull 3.
Sorry if I'm not saying your name right.
Let's see what's going on. These collaborative cards have come out, and And this is interesting because this looks like a woman runs the show. And this would be a woman of fire. But you've got this card of very industrious person, really putting it all together. But one of the things that I always say when this card comes out is this is the person who's not the apprentice. This is the person who's the expert. And collaborative efforts, working with other people. And the shadow card was interesting because this was the 5 of swords. And if you've got to show people who you are, don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to toot your own horn, basically.
Interesting.
So that's what I get from that.
All right, excellent. So I hope that was helpful for you there, Joe. I think you should think about booking a reading with Anita, because when she has time with you, and you'll get a lot more, I think, out of it. But anyway, so it's been a great show. Thank you, everybody, and we're going to be back next week. And I'm going to have a very interesting guest next week, Siren Wind. She does light languages and art.
Ooh.
So yeah, she's a very interesting person that I was able to meet at the Full Disclosure Now conference. So very excited about having her on the show. And then on the 26th, I will not be having a show because I have a book proposal deadline of the 27th. So I'm going to be taking the day off for that. So in any event, so thank you, everybody, for coming this evening, and we'll be back next week. Thank you, Anita, so much. And I encourage everybody to book a reading. It's a great experience. As you can tell, Anita really knows what she's doing, and she's very plugged in. So don't hesitate to give her a call at 813-312-2292. Again, that number is 813-312-2292, or you can text her. That's for our radio audience. So everybody have a good evening, green blessings, and don't forget to go sign up for my class so that you can learn all about herbal medicine that you can make right in your own kitchen. All right, thank you so much. Green blessings. Good night.
Good night.